So we'll call this, call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, April 11th meeting. I would like to ask Danny Lance from True Life Church to come forward and provide invocation and lead us in the pledge. Everyone stand, please.
Heavenly Father, this season of the year especially, we just stop and say thank you for your amazing love. And also, Lord, thank you for these public servants that have chosen the difficult path sometimes of leading. And I ask you, Lord, tonight to bring wisdom, to bring favor, to bring agreement. And Lord, that you, who care about everyone in this city, would help us to move forward as a group with unity, with friendship, with compassion, and with love for one another. And most of all, Lord, I pray that our hearts and minds would be led by your Spirit tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Roll call, Ms. Hilton.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Yalton. Here. Councilmember Cagle.
Here.
Councilmember Chauncey.
Here.
Councilmember Witt. Here. Assistant City Manager Custer.
Here.
City Attorney Litchfield.
Here. Item 4, consent agenda. We have the approval minutes of the March 28, 2019 agenda work session, the approval of the minutes of March 28, 2019 regular council meeting. I trust that everyone's had a chance to review the minutes. We have a motion to
Make motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Chauncey and a second by Councilmember Witt. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Hilton.
Vice Mayor Yalton. I'll pass. Here. Councilmember Cagle.
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey.
Yes.
Councilmember Witt. Yes. Mayor Williams.
Yes. All right, as we move to item 5, communications from citizens. I don't think we have anybody on the list, so I will ask if anyone in the audience, a resident, citizen, business owner who would like to come forward and address the council with any concerns, questions. You'll have up to 5 minutes. I see none. I'll move on into communications from council members. I'll start on this side. Councilmember Witt, do you have anything?
I don't have anything.
Councilmember?
Yeah, I got a few things, Mayor. The church on Rebecca Drive that just recently sold a month ago. Do you know? I know Diane might have a better answer for me, but do you know how long it's going to take to get this property back on the tax roll?
I don't. Once the sale goes through, and I know they've actually eliminated the church for now. And I don't know if they quite like me to have some more information.
Yeah, so that was brought through the housing board, so that church is slated for demo. The new owner's going to tear it down.
Well, I know right now it's zoned. Well, the churches, they're exempt from paying taxes on that parcel. Once the new owner takes possession of it, he owns it. It's going to be put back on the tax roll.
Correct.
And I would like to see it happen as soon as possible, maybe not something that's going to fall through the hoops.
But we'll make sure it's expedited.
And I know sometimes whenever you close on a property, they usually prorate taxes and collect at closing, so I don't know if that's something. I know that the title company would probably reach out to the city to get a tax bill for that year. And if they reach out to one and they say there's not one, then they won't collect any taxes. I just want to make sure we're being diligent to make sure we're putting it back on the tax roll.
Yeah, we'll make sure of that.
Would that be, I'm sorry, may I ask a question? So would that be from the time it takes possession, or does it have to be rezoned a different way before it is on the tax roll?
It would not have to be rezoned. My understanding, it would be when the church ceases to exist and the building is removed. So if it's a church, then somebody else can already move into it and they can remain a church. But when the building's removed, then it becomes a taxable piece of property. Now, if someone else decides to construct a church on that property, then it would not. But I don't see that being the case with this property.
Well, we got confirmation the church is exited,
Yes.
and it's being.
It sounds kind of gray. I'd hate to see him just be able to say, well, I'll just leave the church out there for however long and not have to pay taxes on it. It's not operating as a church.
The other night at the meeting, he said he was closing today and he would start immediately.
Mr. Woods, will you come forward and, you're on the housing commission, so if you can come forward and state your name, and you're on the housing board, so you have all information.
Okay, Earl Wilson, 2019 Pioneer Ridge Trail on the Housing Commission. And according to Mr. Hunter the other night, he has already reached a dollar agreement and he plans to immediately start demolition of that church. He said he closes on the property today, April 11th. So as of close of business today, that property's his. So whatever we have to do is look at the tax rolls to get that back in place. There's also the property 1520 and 1524 parcels. Yeah, in total. He paid $160,000 for all three pieces of property. Okay.
Councilman Chauncey, I'll contact James Davey, city county attorney for the tax assessor's office, and get an answer for it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Michael, has he pulled demolition permit yet?
Not yet, no.
And he'll be required, with that being a commercial piece of property,
Absolutely.
to
So we
submit
have
the,
Buckingham.
Hampton County Air Pollution.
John Schultz, that's what the building,
I was just checking.
commercial.
Because Mike brought up the fact there might be asbestos in the building because it's so old and the address there is getting to it.
Good.
Okay, I got a couple other things. The crosswalks down at Camp Jordan track, the stop signs have mysteriously disappeared, or we put something else back in place of those.
Yes, the yield to pedestrian crossing is in place, which is the exact same signage that's just prior to you getting there. Stop bars remain in place, but it does have the correct yield to pedestrians.
Were those already there before?
No, we moved them down. Originally, yes, before stop signs were inadvertently put up in that location.
So we're not gonna put any more,
Stop signs back.
yeah, was there a reason for that?
There is, so there's not an intersection, so stop signs are generally at intersections, and that's not an intersection, it's just a pedestrian crossing.
I noticed we got stop signs at the new entrance that we put to go to the Skyline, the zip line park. We've got stop signs on each side of that little intersection.
That's because we don't want anybody driving on, it's supposed to be a walkway.
The new pavement driveway that we just laid to go over the walkway and park back there next to the zip line park, there's two stop signs right there just for drivers to stop for pedestrians when they're walking down the track.
We'll remove those two.
We don't have to, actually. I was concerned when they were missing. Somebody brought it to my attention. I think it was a while back that one of the citizens didn't think that the stop sign was enough. He was potentially wanting maybe a yellow flashing light of some kind, which I thought might have been a little much, but I don't see anything wrong with the stop signs being there, stopping for whoever's out there crossing it. So now the pedestrians need to stop for the cars, because nobody really stopped there at the beginning. I mean, not everybody, most of them.
It was rolling stop.
So I didn't know they were going to be removed, or I probably would have been opposed to it.
So they were actually, so there's, I think I talked about this before, the UTCD, which is the traffic code, and where stop signs are placed, where yield signs are placed, where speed humps are placed, roundabouts, guardrails, everything that's got to do with traffic falls under this code. Intersections are where stop signs are placed. If you go all the way up Camp Jordan Parkway, there's 5 crosswalks down through there, and not one of them have a stop sign. Does that make sense?
Yeah, with the new development.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that follows with So by going out and putting a stop sign up, you are going outside what an engineer design code book is. So we're looking at the flashing lights. So the solar,
We're looking at the flashing lights.
yeah, for solar, like pedestrian walkways, got the flashing lights all done by solar.
So we're looking at putting flashing lights there in place of the stop signs? Okay, well, I didn't hear you say that right at the beginning, so. I was-
It just won't happen immediately, just due to the expense, but that's the direction. That was the original direction that we planned on going. We just wanted to have to get something that's similar in place, because we don't want several different signs down Camp Jordan Parkway as it relates to how pedestrians cross the road.
I still think there needs to be stop signs out there. I'm out there quite a bit and I get aggravated whenever I go across that. There's cars flying up down the road. They don't need to look at that stop sign. I actually saw someone get hit by a bicycle. Kid you not, the kid in that bicycle got hit. The driver got out and said, "Oh, are you okay?" The kid was pretty rattled. He just got back on his bike, and kept going. I said, "Man, you know, that could have been a big deal." But,
But we also, if you'll notice, we also changed the speed reduction further up Camp Jordan Parkway as you approach the bridge.
Probably 10.
Yeah, and the trailer, if it's not in place, it will be, I think, by this weekend. The speed trailer.
but we'll see how that goes.
There's also more signage on the track side, if you've seen
There's
those.
signage on the track side, and I understand I'm getting calls as well, any concerns, from citizens. But it's a stop sign for pedestrians is not in the code, and they're just resorting back to what the actual Tennessee State law and code says, that you yield for pedestrians. But we also put some
So we
signs for
weren't in any
pedestrians.
kind of violation for having them there. We just took them out just because it wasn't, just because we could.
Well, because we should. So they should have never been put in place to begin with, is what I'm saying.
But you said we're looking into some solar light.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Just to make it a little more noticeable.
There is a highly traveled path to get that, and so we wanted some visibility with some flashing yellow
Yeah,
lights there.
yeah, I would like to see something back over there.
Isn't the yield to pedestrians the same as a stop sign? If you see a pedestrian, you're supposed to yield, so.
It is. That's why the stop bars will remain in place.
I saw them, but they look like they're about 50 feet back from, probably more than that actually, from the actual.
It's part of the advanced warning, and they're actually, all of that will be repainted within the spring.
I'll drop it. I just,
It's okay.
I got an answer to some people who brought it to my attention.
Absolutely.
One more thing before my last thing. Our last council meeting, Mr. Jesse Fowler, who lives at 1219 Marlboro Avenue, he was pretty passionate about the problem he has in his property with his ditch eroded away. And I know you weren't here, so it might not landed on your desk. I'm just curious to know if anybody's approached him, or anything's been done to go out there and look at his property.
So I'm aware of the project. I actually had staff go out and meet with him after I found out that it had come up. This came up once before. We actually have the plat for that property. Michael has it, and I'd say it's probably highlighted.
It is
where it's-
highlighted, stating the city does not maintain that range.
The city of East Ridge.
Does not maintain it.
Did somebody pass that information on to him?
We had just got this information, so it will be passed on. A little bit just to get it.
And I think his main concern was, he was like, well, okay, if the city don't want to do anything about it, I'll do something about it myself. And they told him he couldn't touch it even if he wanted to, so.
So you can, but if it's waters of the state, there's certain things that you have to take care of. This is a global problem. The great news about all this is that as this streetscape and drainage program that we're working on that goes to the tunnels, the idea for this whole project is to pull all the water off Ringo Road and put it in those stormwater parks. That way it doesn't rush down, because that's the basin that it goes in, his exact basin. So the reduction of flow should be tremendous just based on pulling that water off Ringo Road. Because every bit of water he's getting from the tunnels is going in that Marlboro drainage.
Well, maybe that's something we can communicate to him as well.
Absolutely, it just took a little bit.
Just
to get this
a level of communication between him, because I know he's been out there in dire straits for about 2 decades and just didn't know what to do. If we don't communicate something, he'll come back
I have a meeting with his neighbor at 4:30 Monday.
Okay. All right, and my last thing is, and forgive me, Mr. Mayor, you usually bring this up, but I just want to remind everybody at Jones Memorial, we'll have an Easter egg hunt Saturday, April 20th at 10 a.m. And the 10 a.m. wave is going to be babies through pre-K, and the 10:30 wave is kindergarten through 6th grade at the East Ridge football field. Jones Memorial United Methodist Easter egg. That's all I have.
Anything? Vice Mayor Hill. Councilmember Cagle.
Yes, sir. I'd just like to touch on what Mr. Chauncey said about that stop sign down there, because going into the park from Bass Pro, the stop sign, the first stop sign across the bridge, you cannot see the pedestrians coming up that hill. The other night I stopped because my wife told me the stop sign was down. She said, "You go on the stop sign there." And I said, "There comes a pedestrian." Well, they didn't see it when I first pulled up there. The pedestrians, well, I know they can't see us coming down the road on that side. Now, the other side's pretty good. Something does need to be done there, you know, that's, and then also, the crosswalk back on Jordan Crossing there, it's down in the hole where they walking down from the Starbucks side, the last crosswalk that goes across so people can go across the bridge. I've had a complaint about that, where people stand down there, and cars coming across the hill, and they can't see the people crossing over, because that's a dark spot down in that hole. And I don't know, I don't remember who come back at me, because they said there's gonna be a flashing light put there.
Where at exactly now?
On the last crosswalk, on toward the park, before you get to the Creek Bridge.
Okay. I know what you're talking about, down in the hall.
Yeah, it's down in the hole down there, and you have to cross over there to be able to go across the Creek Bridge. So,
Yeah, there's bicycles that come up over that hill, and they're coming quick, and they're expecting cars to stop.
right.
And if the car's not expecting to stop, and he's looking to his left to yield, he ain't gonna see a bike that's doing 25 miles an hour, and it's gonna be an accident.
Anyway, that's Mr. Johnson, that's your thing. I agree with you.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kate.
No, I agree with you on that. And, the lady stopped me out here in the over at the last council meeting, having trouble down in Greenwood, Max Smith and Marietta Street. And I've been down there and I took pictures and I brought them, to give them to codes people. I'd like to get follow up on it. I've got one question I need to ask Mike from the discussion we had yesterday.
Yes, sir.
All right, we were talking about maybe these people coming in and living there and working out of that house. And I understood you say that there could be one person per 70 square foot.
Required by the code, yes, that's correct.
Okay, so if you've got a 1,400 square foot house, there'd be 20 people living in that house.
Well, the code looks at it, so the minimum size of a bedroom is 70 square feet. If you have another occupant in that bedroom, you gotta add an additional 50 square feet to that. I have talked to the owner of that property today. He works for Silver's Plumbing. There's no home-based occupation being run out of that house. He addressed to me there's only 5 gentlemen there at the time. I did ask him about the gathering in the morning and the possible light pollution that is disturbing the neighbors in that. He assured me that will be taken care of immediately. It will not be happening again. So I do have his contact number, and we'll follow up and get any more complaints on it.
And then let me get this clear about 70 square foot. That's per bedroom, not per room of the house.
That's a habitable room. So any bedroom, the code requires a minimum of 70 square feet. Your living room, they say that, 120 square feet. That's the minimum requirement, the size of those rooms. Kitchen has no requirement for square footage. A habitable room, 70 square feet. Every other occupant in that bedroom, 50 square feet. Add that to it. So if you had, 70, you'd go 120, 170, and so forth. 220, keep adding 50 to it.
You said per person.
50. So the minimum's 50 on that, 70 on that room. 50 for another occupant that's in that room. Add 50 to that 70, correct?
Then, got 5 people, you can have 5 cars.
Well, not the code, but our regulations state, if you can operate that vehicle publicly, rightfully on Tennessee Highway, that's fine, but if it's inoperable vehicle, which is not licensed, and stated, it's not, has a current license on it, or it's an inoperable vehicle, you can't have those on your property. That makes sense, sorry about that.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, not a problem.
Anything else? Table? So I have a few things. One is I would like to give kudos to Mr. Custer and staff for another great monthly report. I think it's something very, very great that you collect everything and put it into a single report and distribute it.
Yeah, staff works very hard on providing those numbers and documentation so we can be as transparent as possible as it relates to how we operate within the city. And I think that monthly report continues moving forward.
And these are available to be out on the website and you can pull down for citizens to review.
Yes, sir.
The other thing I'm going to mention is Meet the Mayor event is going to be this Saturday, 10 o'clock at Life Care. I will be having our Chief Williams, who will be there, my guest speaker, and will be doing the presentation. Everyone's invited, and this Saturday, local coffee, that's where it's going to pass. Life Care, 10 a.m. The next thing I wanted to mention is we had an overwhelming, an amazing event at Camp Jordan recently. It was the Cobra Cruising, which I had been mentioning for many, many meetings. And it was, did it live up to what I was saying, how massive and large it was? It was a great event. It brought, I heard someone, Chief Williams thought it was approximately 25,000 people over the course of the day that had came in and out of our park. And we had thousands of vehicles. I don't know, let me put you on the spot. Mr. Wills, if you'd like to add anything, you're more than welcome to come and say, I know that your staff did an excellent job. They were overwhelmed at times, and we had our fire department there, we had our police officers there. It was a great event. My knowledge, we didn't have any incidents or anything, and I know that they've signed and they're coming back for next year as well, I believe.
Correct. Like the mayor was saying, the event was great. We had all of our staff plus the Cobra Tire staff, parking people. One thing I do want to say is the garbage was very minimal. So the people that were there were actually using our receptacles. They were clean. We ran out of parking spaces. We were parking them in areas that I've never seen cars parked at before, up on the hill, on the Frawley side, or road side. We were parking them in the amphitheater. Anywhere it was dry, we were parking them. So with that being said, we need more paid parking going forward. But it was a great event, and we're tickled that they're planning on coming back next year.
Thank you, sir. That's all that I have. Assistant City Manager.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks to Danny and Debbie Lance. We've met, I think, today for the second or third time over the last 3 months. And they are embarking on something that is truly amazing and will bring so many people and so much opportunity to East Ridge as it relates to the arts. That's visual performing, potentially culinary arts. This is growing rapidly in the county, but we're not receiving that in East Ridge. So we're all going to work together to figure out how we can help that expand out of downtown Chattanooga, out of the county, and into East Ridge, because that's something that we need to be able to really tap into. Looking at some other models throughout the state. Matter of fact, thanks to Smyrna, they determined that they receive more economic impact from their arts exhibits and shows that they do than they do in their sports. So if you'll, when we met with Mayor Coppinger a couple of months ago, two of the biggest things he talks about was sports and tourism and arts. And I think as we move through our streetscaping project and we identify some stormwater park locations, will be a great opportunity for us to displace them. some heart throughout the city and get people involved. So thank you for taking on this effort, and I hope that you get many people that are willing to also share that same vision and passion to make a difference.
Yes, it is you have an amazing vision, and we're supporting it. It's going to be amazing. If anyone has an opportunity to stop by local coffee and talk to them about it, it's eye-opening and it's very encouraging.
The last thing I would like to say is, potentially, depending on how this vote goes in a little while, this will be my last meeting sitting up here. But I just want to thank the council and everybody. It's been an enjoyable several months now. I think we've all grown together. Been presented with several challenges, but I think that we've been able to work hard and move forward, continue progression. But I couldn't have done it without the support of all the staff. It's been, they've been a tremendous help. This place has a fantastic opportunity. And by making the hire that you all made, we're going to continue in that direction. There's going to be great things to come.
I will say, which is very appreciated. You stepped in and was able to fill that position quickly, knowledgeably, and you're not going anywhere.
No.
So
I'm
that's
still going to
great.
sit in a different spot.
So you'll still have that target on you. We'll hit you up on it every now and then. But we definitely appreciate it. Absolutely. All right. That being said, we will move into, we have no old business, so we'll move into new business. So we have item 80.
Resolution number 2923, a resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the city manager and chief of police to sign an agreement with the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police authorizing the East Ridge Police Department to participate in the Tennessee Law Enforcement Accreditation Program.
There's not a whole lot that I need to say about this process, with the exception of, we started the strategic planning process. These officers are putting together a vision and a mission and a direction that they truly want to go. This accreditation process is really going to help that. This is a beginning step. Lieutenant Stevenson is going to be heading up that accreditation process, and he's going to have the support that he needs to make sure that happens. But the department is great, and it's moving positively in a great direction. And thank you all for the support and everything that you're putting into trying to make a difference, and especially coming from the strategic planning process. I think that's a truly valuable tool that all of you all will get to see, hopefully moving forward as you all enter your strategic planning process for the city. So thank you all, and I'm excited to see this process. I really am.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Vice Mayor Hilton, and we have a second from Councilmember Witt. Do we have any discussion? I will say that I am extremely excited about this as well. That's one of the things that I'd asked when I actually was elected as council, and I'm glad to see that this now is moving forward and going to become attainable. I think it's a great program. Roll call, Ms. Woodley.
Vice Mayor Hilton? Yes. Councilmember Cagle?
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey?
Yes.
Councilmember Witt?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes. Item B, the grant consent agenda.
Resolution number 2924, a resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the city manager or his designee to accept the Hamilton County 2018 Homeland Security Grant for the East Ridge Fire Department. Resolution number 2925, a resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the city manager or his designee to accept the Hamilton County 2018 Homeland Security Grant for the East Ridge Police Department.
Mayor and council, the first grant for the fire department is for roughly $17,750, and that will be for the purchase of a side-by-side utility vehicle. They have been looking at some Polarises and some other different alternate type vehicles. We're actually going to make a trip down to Southern Honda Power Sports within the next few days to see what they're willing to offer. They have put some in place that do trail runs and stuff like that. So since Southern Honda does continue to plan to relocate out to East Ridge and construct that new facility, we're going to go down there and evaluate their inventory and see if we can fill that from within them. And the other is going to be for a radio for the police department. Purchase of a radio.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Elton, and we have a second by Councilmember Wood. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Wilson.
Vice Mayor Hilton. Yes. Councilmember Cagle.
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey.
Yes.
Councilmember Webb.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Item C.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, amending resolution number 2922 to reflect the name of Bass Pro as the donor of ammunition to the city rather than Cabela's.
Yeah, this was previously approved under Cabela's. The way their letterhead came through, it was misread as from Cabela's, but it is from Bass Pro. So for clarification purposes, we want to make sure we're buying from Bass Pro in East Ridge.
Do you have a motion to approve?
Receiving the donation.
Donation to the donation.
Right.
Make a motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Chauncey and a second from Councilmember Webb. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Chauncey.
Vice Mayor Hilton. Yes. Councilmember Cagle.
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey.
Yes.
Councilmember Webb.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. All right, we have three items that we've moved forward. We'll have item D, which will be resolution 2927, which is item C from the working agenda work session.
Resolution number 2927, a resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the mayor and city manager to undertake conversion of 5 acres of LWCF assisted property located in Camp Jordan pursuant to 36 CFR 59 for new improvements, renovations, and enhancement of certain recreational tourism facilities within Camp Jordan complex for the construction of a first-class soccer training facility.
Mayor and Council, you've also been provided with Exhibit A as discussed previously. Under that is listed, and it says stadium area and future field space. The only area as it relates to the conversion is the area under 5 acres, which is the stadium field itself.
That's correct, and I apologize. When I was preparing this resolution and requested to prepare it, I had forgotten that Exhibit A from the previous resolution had both of those fields, which was part of the negotiations with regard to just a training complex. With regard to what Resolution 2927, it is limited solely to 5 acres, which has, my understanding, been identified as the area depicted as the stadium field. And so what I would probably do is just X out where it says future field area. If you want to just X that out, we can get this modified to reflect the accurate 5 acres. It will need to, if this is a resolution that's approved, it will be reflected as we proceed forward with TDEC and NPS that it is only the portion of the red that would consist of 5 acres depicted as stadium field. And not future field area. So I apologize for that, council. The second page, as I understand it, is that field, the main field that you see there depicted as the attachment of Exhibit A, as I understand, is what the field or the soccer complex is envisioned in connection with this conversion.
All right, so it's resolution 2927. Do we have anyone motion to approve?
A second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Hilton and a second by Councilmember Chauncey. Do you have discussion?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
You know, it's nice to go ahead with the conversion of the field there, but I'd like to know a little bit more particulars on what else they are wanting. You know, is the light bill going with it, water bill going with it? Is it all gonna be converted to their name? Or the light bill, the water bill gonna stay in our name?
So, Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the conversion is actually to allow, whether it's their use or any use, allows us to enter into a lease agreement. The agreement itself, which will have to come before this body, will depict all those stipulations of how you want to lay them out.
That's right. The conversion is nothing more than a lifting of the LWCF restrictions, which gives the city flexibility to take property it previously received federal grant funds for, in this case 1970, over 40 years ago. The city is basically going to be given flexibility to use the field as it deems appropriate or most beneficial to the public good. And so it's not that if we go through the conversion, it doesn't mean that it automatically goes to the Red Wolves. It would be, it allows the city the flexibility to be entering into a potential lease, of which the lease will have the terms dictating relative matters like water, electricity, maintenance, cleanup, and those sort of items. I've taken efforts to at least explore other municipality relationships when they are leasing out to professional organizations, and I have worked to get educated pretty diligently on what those leases will be, and the majority of those leases, if not all of them, address issues like lighting, who's responsible for security if there are events up there, who's responsible for cleanup, who's responsible for maintenance of the fields if there's something that happens. All of that will be addressed and voted upon by this body at the time that the lease comes before you all for a vote. So in other words, that's a long way of saying, just because you do the conversion doesn't mean, okay, it's now going to the Red Wolves. There's still additional stuff to discuss and negotiate with the Red Wolves.
So, two things that first come to mind is East Street will retain ownership of that property.
That's correct. I mean, just because you're converting it, you're not changing ownership.
That is correct. So I wanted to just make sure that is out there known for the public that will continue to be East Street's property. The second is the previous resolution that we referred to that was giving myself and the assistant city manager the ability to enter into a negotiation. That is the contract that we're referring to, coming back.
Correct, yes. I'll call it a lease, but yeah, contract. Yeah, that'll be the lease, use lease, whatever you want to call it, but that'll be the use lease. And to the extent that there's some question as to what is a conversion, what does that entail? A conversion is an area of the Clean Water Act that under, I think it's section 6.3 or 6F3, that allows a municipality or any governmental entity that has received federal funding in connection with the acquisition or development of parks, public parks, to evaluate. It allows municipalities and governments to evaluate its situation over a period of time, if their needs have changed, if demand has changed, if factors have arisen that give rise to lifting a restriction of which is part of the Land Conservation Water Act. In this case, as I understand it, what they're asking for, that the Red Wolf are asking for, is 5 acres. They don't want more, and so when you go with a conversion, you find replacement property. So you take the 5 acres that was currently depicted on this Exhibit A as the stadium field, and you take the 5 acres, then you have to find a replacement. And it's my understanding there's been efforts by the staff to identify replacement property. And to be clear, replacement doesn't mean you're swapping ownership or anything. You're actually going to be adding 5 extra acres to Camp Jordan, somewhere on the adjacent area to Camp Jordan, whether it be through a crosswalk or sharing a property boundary. All of those are, my understanding from TDEC, up for consideration. My understanding when TDEC evaluated this, their response was, we understand, we would support this, and we like the direction that East Ridge is thinking with regard to replacement property, because it would open up additional, currently non-public property, it would open up additional property. Now, with that said, the converted property, and I say that converted as in a lifting of restrictions, and even in its manual it says it's sort of a misnomer to call it a conversion, because you're not converting anything, you're just lifting the restrictions that are currently in place under the Land Water Conservation Act requirements. And so the city then has the flexibility to do what it wants to do with that property and use it whatever it deems, this body would deem as most appropriate. And there is a $10,000 conversion fee. The ownership team, or the ownership management group for the Chattanooga Red Wolves, has said he will front the $10,000. He has said I understand. His statement was, "Tell me where to write the check. I'm willing to do it." So that's at a zero cost to the city right there to undergo the conversion process. There'll be other factors that come up. It's around somewhere, it could be a 4-month, 9-month period that it goes evaluated before TDEC. And at that point, TDEC makes its recommendation to the National Park Services. That's really the essence of the conversion. But to be clear, or to answer your question, Mayor, it's not a change of ownership. It is just a lifting of the current restrictions which were placed in 1970, which has said that it's got to be used 100% for public access, public use, 100%. You can't exclusively use it for any body or any person. And so Camp Jordan has been pretty careful with that. But you've still got zip lines, and that this body's voted for before. You got the canoe use, potential uses of the arena when you're leasing it out to exclusive use for private organizations. Those are things that are scrutinized by TDEC. And in this case, they would scrutinize a relationship with a professional team, and so that's why they said, go the conversion route. That way you remove us and those restrictions, and you can do what you want to move forward. Hopefully that sort of answered some of it. If you've had concerns, and the public may have other questions, but that's the basis and the premise for a conversion, is to acknowledge changes in times over a 30, 40 period year based upon changing the factors, use, demand, utility, and that's why I think TDEC, as I understand it, said go the conversion route. Yes.
We go the conversion route. The stadium still belongs to the city of East Ridge. Okay. Stadium still falls under park route, city ordinances, resolutions. But still belongs to the city of East Ridge.
Right, yeah. It would still, there's
Still fall under our governing body, our route, with our route that's been laid over years and years.
and you all have the right to negotiate all of that. Those are not taken off the table. You still have the right to negotiate those as you move forward. For example, I don't know if, just say, lights have to be out at a certain hour, you could say we will allow lights to be used 30 minutes beyond curfew, or whatever the term, and I'm just making an example of something. This body, those are not removed just because you do a conversion. You all still have those at your resources to negotiate however you please at the time that comes up as we move down this path of negotiations on a lease use agreement with the Chattanooga Red Wolves.
Well, I'd like to make a suggestion, Chattanooga Red Wolves, changing to East Ridge Red Wolves, since you're going to be located in East Ridge.
I think that's just a training facility out there. They haven't made their mind up for an actual home stadium. Is that right?
That's correct.
If they did find it located for their home stadium in East Ridge, then yeah, that sounds like a great idea. But
From what I read on Facebook, East Ridge is it from the stadium. So, I'm racing. We have overtaken the building and and one other thing. Mr. Adam, right there, just made this statement that we have insufficient parking down there for what we've got going on now. So if this conversion goes on, if they get awarded this lease, I like to see them stepping way out ahead of the boat, but for them to be responsible for building the additional parking, that third one.
I think we're going to be bringing a plan together that's going to be a cooperative plan to be able to address that.
Again, we are in control of the lease agreement. I think this being a practice field, I think their practice hours, they're not gonna coincide with the afternoon. My understanding, they're practicing in the mornings.
Yeah, they practice in what they consider non-park hours.
Correct. So I think that'll also, not to diminish that, we need additional parking and see if we can get contributed funds, always. But I think that the timing of that is going to be where there would not be a conflict. It would be added to existing parking during peak hours that the park is being used.
And one other thing he's mentioned, as I understand it, the ownership has mentioned it being about a 1,500 to 2,000 seat training facility for that one field. The Red Wolves are making the commitment that they would incur all the costs for the upgrades to that field. The stadium, they would put the locker rooms in, they want to put the turf in, they want to put the lights in, they would incur the cost. I think somewhere they had an estimate, as I understand it, around 1.2, 1.5 million. I don't know that that's exact numbers, but that's what I've sort of heard. But the Red Wolves want to incur all that cost. And in exchange, they would lease the field as well and pay an annual fee to the city for the use of that time. This is not their home field, that's correct. This is one that they're going to be using for their training facility. They may want, as part of either their season prep or to use it as a potential event gathering. My understanding is one of the first things that the ownership said was they wanted it to be available for East Ridge High School and give East Ridge High School a soccer field to participate on its games, as well as other youth facilities, is what I understand they are targeting, as I understand it. And I'm not a soccer player, but the interest of soccer starts at a very young age, or at least that's what I understand the movement is in America, is to get children at early ages just interested in soccer, physical activity. And I think from what I understand, there's a strong commitment both in youth activities and in particular girls' youth activities.
Yeah, they just recently unveiled, which is a new concept. So I'm familiar with a bunch of different leagues as it relates to Development Academy or Elite Clubs, National League, ECNL. But the league that they play in, which is USL, USL League 1, 2, 3. Now they've created USLA, which is a USL Academy. And the only way that you can be a part of that Academy tournament series is to be attached to a USL team. So the Wisconsins and all these other teams, they're going to be generating or combining academies. So these young individuals will be able to actually play into that organization. And I've just seen where one group has a U16 player. FC Dallas is taking a U16 boy, and he's playing on the USL League One, USL League One team.
And the engagement that they're already establishing, they're already
Yeah, they were there last
they're already sponsoring our rec league. They were there
Last night.
I already saw some of the pictures that Mr. Wilson posted where they're out there with the rec league, and it's, I think it's going to be tremendous for this league, this city, this county.
Yeah, first home game in a non-traditional stadium. There's over 3,000 people.
Any other discussion?
Yes, sir. I asked the city attorney today, with the CFC contract, are there a clause in there that we cannot enter into another agreement with another soccer association?
Doesn't say anything about a professional soccer association.
It does say soccer association.
No, that issue dealt with an academy, not a professional soccer club. And that's for, right now, there is an agreement that allows for certain field usage. TDEC would not allow for an exclusive use of an organization to the exclusion of others, to where the city would have to either rent that back. TDEC would not allow it. As I understand, I think it was either in 15 or 16, there was an agreement that was entered into that allowed at the time, I understand, was that one academy access to 3 or 4 or 5 fields. I've looked at that, and to the exclusion of other academies or other youth facilities, youth associations, the city couldn't exclude others from coming here and using those fields.
They just have to go through the scheduling process like everybody else.
Remember that coming up, so, all right, ask.
Yes, sir.
It'll come up again.
And that's a fair question. It's a good question, Councilman.
Yeah, I chose LCFC and went over the Redwoods, so.
True.
Well, if you'll remember, ERFC combined with CFC, and we had the largest player. That was what was best for youth soccer at the time. That same group of people are now the Red Wolves Academy.
And again, I'm not, children don't play. I guess I wish they would, but I understand there's other organizations than just these two. There are other academies or is.
Several that don't have accessibility to practice facilities.
And I don't think this city would send the message to those facilities or those academies that we only deal exclusively with certain associations. I think in even talking with Mr. Wilson, then to allow the park open to youth participation and exclude it from others is not something I think he's wanting to promote.
Any other questions? All right. Remind everyone, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Hilton, and we have a second by Councilmember Johnson. Roll call, Ms. Wilson.
Vice Mayor Hilton. Yes. Councilmember Cagle.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Witt.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Item D, which would be resolution 2928 from our SAE. Item D, from our item D, agenda work session.
Resolution 2928, a resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Competition Athletic Services, Inc. to resurface 2 tennis courts at East Ridge High School.
Yes, Mayor and Council, as we discussed in the work session, Parks and Rec Department's wanting to enter into an agreement with Competition Athletic Services to resurface the 2 tennis courts closest to Bennett Road at East Ridge High School in the amount of $15,500.
passed this forward to the regular session, so, 11 to discuss. Do we have a motion then? A second?
I make a motion to approve, resolution 2928.
Do we have a second?
I'll second with some discussion.
Okay.
I agree, I'd like to get them all four done. If we think that we're gonna have to wait 2 years, 3 years for a field house to materialize, if it's that soon. Again, like I said, if we're gonna have to wait 2 years, I assume we go ahead and do all four of them.
One option that I kind of thought of is going ahead and getting the first 2 courts resurfaced now, and then our new budget starting July 1, if we can keep this, 15,000 or so in the budget for July 1, then we could go ahead and resurface the other 2 courts, get all 4 of those done, if you guys so.
Can you negotiate with them, again, as we can vote on this, but if they will do all 4 courts for, say, 25,000, is it, have they given you a price to do all 4 of them?
No, he gave me, a price for to do 2.
And the price to add basketball, full court basketball, right?
Correct, we could add on a full court outdoor basketball court. I think $4,500 was what he quoted me.
If we add a basketball court, that's gonna eliminate something.
It was proposed in the original, kind of the design of the building to have 2 tennis courts with pickleball, and then the basketball court, because we run the league.
Well, I mean, if we put a basketball court and a pickleball court, it's gonna eliminate some space out of the other 2 courts.
Right.
We're not gonna have 4 courts if we put a basketball court.
Right. So we have to decide what we want to do. If we want to if it's just going to be completely tennis and pickleball and no field house, then we can resurface all 4. If we end up doing the field house, then we could add an outdoor basketball court on that same piece of property.
Our thought with the basketball court, we could give the students that walk in there to the center every day another option to play. So not everybody's trying to fight for a few goals to play on. They have the opportunity up there, but basketball and tennis don't really jive too well together.
Well, I won't want to make the best decision when it comes to whatever we decide to do with those 2 courts, and I just don't see the point of having the other 2 sitting over dilapidated for the next 2 or 3 years, if that's how long we're going to have to wait.
The other thing that's possible is, since we don't know about the field house, we can go with the original field house location. But where the building was demoed, you're going to pay a little bit extra utility because of the length of the utilities, and then you can go ahead and resurface all 4 tennis courts.
And, that sounds like a great idea. And then another concern, thank you to Mrs. Laura Mathis, who brought this to my attention. I've been out there in those tennis courts for the last 5-6 years. I've played out there. There's beer bottles, all kinds of trash bags, whatever, you name it, some stuff out there I probably don't even want to mention, but it's just pretty filthy out there. I'd hate to see us spend all that money out there and not have an ability to secure it after hours of some kind. I know we have someone that goes out to Camp Jordan, I think, or they go somewhere to lock up facilities. Again, I remember whenever we did all that work out there at the canoe ramp, somebody came out there with a couple cans of spray paint, just spray painted over everything. It's just, I don't want to see, us spend $25,000 out there and then come out there one day and the nets are cut. So if we can incorporate something to make sure that those gates get locked after hours to make it not so accessible to vandals after dark, that'd be a must for me.
We have, an employee that works at East Ridge High School taking care of the facilities. We have employees that are also at the community center. So hopefully
it just seems like it's probably a matter of time, if not in the first week or the first month, or sometime, and somebody's gonna go out there, and there's gonna be broken glass bottles, and who knows what's scattered out there, and, I'd like to prevent that if possible. So I guess my motion to approve with discussion. Should I redact that, maybe make another motion to?
You want to withdraw the other motion, to approve as is too.
And technically, under Robert's rules, when technically there should be discussion until there's a motion to approve in a second. Then it's open for the floor for discussion. Doesn't mean you have to even vote in favor of it, even if you move to second it. That you're not committing yourself to that. You can still have the vote and still vote in opposition. Because under Robert's rules, really discussion only occurs after the second motion, or the motion to approve has been seconded, and then it's open to the floor for discussion.
I guess I could have just said maybe to amend the motion along those lines.
So,
Just got the motion withdrawn.
You could.
you could remove his second, and I believe Councilmember Witt made the motion.
And then it would just stand as there's only been a motion, there's not been a second at this time.
So I will say, part of your decision, I think that the whole plan here was we didn't know about the field house. We don't know yet. I don't think we're going to have a 2-year period. I hope that we don't have a 2-year period to get a decision whether we are or not going to have a field house. I think that it would be great if we did have a field house. We have requested funds from our Hamilton County Commissioner, and he has actually requested that $150,000 within this year's budget from the county commission. In addition, a $300,000 request for a new track, upgrade/new track at the high school. So I think we will know something when they approve their budget, whether it's in or it's out. So the diagram that was presented to us, it did include 2 of the tennis courts, and that was to reduce the cost of running the water and utilities all the way at the other end of the football field where the old one was torn down. So that was the cost savings when it was located where it was. It's the council's decision, if you will, if we want to resurface the floor, and if the field house money is approved and we decide to use it along with the $50,000 we've already been granted from the county commission, along with the donation from the Illinois Association, and then look at building that in the original position where the concession was torn down. That's fine. I think this resolution was put forward to try to address 2 now to get them going and then make a decision on the field house, but we can do either. I think we should do something. I'd like to see the tennis courts. We've been waiting for over a year or 2. We haven't had those.
I'm in favor of the tennis courts. I'm in favor of
And that's currently not on this resolution.
Well, I don't mean to muddy the waters, I guess. I just wanted to see if we're gonna do something. Again, like I said before, the other 2 tennis courts, if we're just gonna sit there and fines, they're just gonna be in that same condition for the next 2 or 3 years, and I just assume do all 4 of them. So I will keep my motion, my second to approve. Vote on that, and in hopes that we can maybe revisit this in maybe the next council meeting or 2, and talk about doing the other 2. When we know more about the field house.
Should we table this tonight? Ask them to talk to them people, see what the price will be, and then bring it back next time for all 4?
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it going to be just double the price that it is, or is there going to be reduction?
I would assume that, but there could be
Might get
some small percentage thing.
Because it's going to have to only come out one time.
Yeah, I was thinking about that mobilization fee,
One time.
pay extra if they have to come back.
So it could be cheaper than just double this if we done all 4, so.
Is the field house waiting on the grant? Have we heard anything about the grant yet?
That is another avenue that we're hoping to get funding in addition to the others that I've already mentioned for the field house. Will the council?
Well-
Withdraw and get a
I
quote?
I like his idea of maybe tabling it, however, if we did approve just to do the other tennis courts, you go back to the contractor and say, hey, will you do the other two for 10,000? Maybe present that to council. Does that, or,
I'm certainly willing to ask if they can do it for 10,000. It should be pretty close to I would say pretty close to 30,000. It'll probably, there might be some savings, but I'm not sure. But I'll be glad to ask.
Correct me, sorry. If we do that, that's gonna exceed the budget item. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
okay,
We only have 20 budgeted.
We have 25.
We do have 25, I thought it was 20.
25.
well, that's
Good. I thought it was 20.
That's just an incentive for them to say, look, if they'll do the other side for 10 while they're at it, we probably most likely will approve on it. If it's anything over, then it just won't happen because we don't have the budget.
Bravo.
Off board.
I'm just asking, bring it back.
But I would like to go ahead and approve it for tonight, just get the other two rolling. I mean, is that,
That's
you
what
think that, any downside?
That way, if they say no, then we can at least move forward with
the two.
the two.
But run their price back. While they're after, what they go ahead and do the other two for them.
If I'm understanding correctly, your Councilman Chauncey suggested go ahead and, he's wanting to go ahead and approve the two as is, with Mr. Wilson going back and asking for the other two to be up for 10, and if so, we'll come back to the council for the approval of the additional two for the 10,000.
Or if this body wants to approve up to 25,000, then it would allow me to get forward for the cost of 25,000.
We don't know if they'll do it for that yet.
We don't.
I don't know, they might offer to do it for a little less than that, but I doubt it. I don't want to offer somebody something until they actually tell me how much they're going to charge.
Correct.
But,
You let them make the offer first, and then you tell them that you can't spend without going back and doing a budget.
Yeah,
And then they say, hey,
but,
well, let's see.
just like the mayor said, that's what I'm in favor of. Just like, you think
You don't
it's,
want to put words in your mouth, let's try to
no,
understand
that's exactly how I think.
What do you say, I forget what you said. Janet didn't know she would come and ask that.
Correct me if I get your vote, would you like to do it? That,
We made a motion, first and a second to approve the two courts, which you have in the packet, the two courts to get resurfaced for the 15,000. And you can go back to the contractors to see if they would be willing to do the other two, for 10,000. Or, sorry, you ask them how much they're willing to do the other two courts for. And if it's gonna exceed 10,000, say, well, we have $10,000 in our budget, would they be willing to do it for that? And then if they say yes, you can bring that before council, maybe at the next meeting for discussion.
Yeah, Janet, did you get that?
Now, this will delay the start of the project because we don't have a meeting in 2 weeks, so we would have to,
Well, we
We would want them to
approved
come out.
the two courts tonight, that'll get things going.
but you don't want them to do the work and then have to leave. You would want them to, one mobilization.
Can we approve for them
Sounds like
to
we
have
can.
$25,000 to do this?
or as Mr. Wilson said, it's up to,
That's what I'm asking, if this body will approve it, for me to spend up to 25,000.
On all four.
For all four.
Or 15 for two?
Yeah, that works with me. I guess I'd still like to know if, what they would charge before we just offer it to 25,000.
Well, that's not me offering, that's
Okay.
just you guys approving me to
Okay.
spend
Yeah,
25,000.
I'm
Allow him to negotiate.
in favor of that. So I would withdraw my second.
Do I need to make another motion?
Well, you still got the first out there, let's get a chance to see if there's a second on that one. It may die for lack of a second.
She can withdraw her first.
She could withdraw it if you want to.
I can withdraw my first.
Okay.
And I will make a motion. Mr. Wilson, giving him the authority to offer the contractor $25,000 to do, up to $25,000 to repay all 4 tennis courts.
You change that word offer to negotiate.
I can, I guess, we're just giving him the authority to negotiate up to $25,000 to resurface all 4 tennis courts. That'll
And do
be-
you have to say anything about the other two?
Right, so if he does not, is unable to negotiate all 4 for 25, then do we proceed with the 2, or does it die and we readdress it later? think
I
that's-
could always come back to a future meeting and ask for, if it's 26.5, and that's the bottom number, I can always come back and ask.
I can just add my,
It's waited this long.
I can add into my motion that if they say, no, we can't do it for 25,000, then just go ahead and do the first 2 for 15. And then we'll just figure out what we want to do with the other end down the road. Do with the other 2. Your thoughts on that?
I would stick with the 25. Let him negotiate. We are having the ability to do the first 2. We can negotiate the timing to where it's all time, where it's timed out right for the other 2.
Yeah.
It just gives us the approval right now to go ahead and start this negotiation on tomorrow, essentially, and find out what's going on.
I just didn't want to wait a month and then come back and say, well, he only said he was going to do the 2 for 15 and then have to approve it then. And I just want, I don't like procrastinating. I like to see some work get done either.
So we'll either do 2 for 15 or 4 for 25.
Sounds good to me.
That's my motion.
I say
And if we can make it less than that, that's what we'll do.
up to.
If they don't watch the video.
You helping with the negotiation?
Yes.
I got faith in you.
All right, so, God help me back here, we're gonna get this right. So we got a motion from Councilman Chauncey to negotiate up to 25,000 on all 4 fields being refurbished. Or if it cannot meet that, then proceed with the 15,000 for 2. And we have
15,500.
Yes, sir, 15,000. Thank you. And then we have a second from Councilman Member Whip. I'll get that right.
Is that approved, this resolution?
Well, it's approved with an amendment.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and modify this resolution to reflect. I mean, essentially, if this is a motion to approve for 2 for 15, 4 for 25. I mean, that's essentially what we're voting here. Excuse me, 15,500, excuse me. Or 2 for, or 4 for.
Clear as mud.
So, yeah. We'll modify.
Any more discussion? Get it correct. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Hilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle?
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey?
Yes.
Councilmember Webb?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes. All right. We have item F. Just for the agenda. G, discussion of April 25th, 2019 council meeting. So I mentioned earlier in the agenda work session, I will not be able to make it to the 25th meeting. And there's a possibility that our Vice Mayor Elton will not be able to. So I wanted to bring this forward to discuss whether we wanted to Continue to have the meeting. We got clarification from the city attorney and from MTS that it is possible. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that again, or if we want to cancel the meeting. We're only required to have one per month, so just,
Right.
and
And
I'm
I'm
not going to be in violation or break our charter by that.
Since moved it up, and some citizens may not have been here for the 6 o'clock, I'll go over under the, we'll discuss it at 6 o'clock, and I'll reiterate again. Under the city charter, it provides that only the mayor, or it doesn't say only, it just says, the mayor shall preside over the order of business proceeding at a council meeting, and the vice mayor shall assume the role of mayor in the absence or disability of the mayor. It's silent as to who presides over the meetings in the event that both the mayor and the vice mayor are out of town. The code, or the city charter also provides that a quorum is achieved by having 3 council members present for a meeting, but it doesn't address who would be presiding over that meeting in the event it's without the mayor and the vice mayor. Under the city ordinance or city code, it provides that unless otherwise addressed, all matters under the council meeting are proceeding by Robert's rules. And so I looked at the Robert's rules today. I contacted MTS. They confirmed that under Robert's rules, there's a provision that's called a chairman pro tem, which is Latin for temporary chairman. So what would happen is if this body had a quorum, which would be 3, then they would pick at that meeting who would be the chair of that respective meeting, who would preside over that. One thing I did not say earlier, and perhaps maybe I should, just so that it's full transparency for citizens. Under the city charter, it provides that no action shall have any force or validity unless the majority of the members present shall vote in favor thereof. In other words, if you just have 3, then 2 members voting in favor of something would be the act of a council, which generally takes 3 out of 5. And so my understanding, just from the history, is when you have things like a rezoning, generally the rezonings has been given the courtesy to the neighboring property owners that it be given at a minimum requirement of getting the majority of the entire council vote. And so if you have a rezoning, I think there may be one, you would potentially have a rezoning of a property based upon 2 members of the council approving it, where traditionally, if all were here, it would require 3. So I didn't mention that, I forgot to mention that, but I want to clarify in case somebody had a question, does it take a majority vote when 3 are present to be the act of the council? The answer to that is no, just the majority of those present, which in that case would be 2.
And we do have a public hearing and we have a rezoning on the agenda for the 25th.
I've got a question for Mr. Litchford. The second to the last paragraph in the meetings and quorum in the charter here I have, as it relates to meetings and quorum, it says that 3 members of the council, including mayor, shall constitute a quorum for the transactions of business at a regular meeting or called meeting, but a smaller number may adjourn from time to time and may compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and such penalties as each council may prescribe. So, is that how you, we read the same?
Yeah, I'm reading that. I asked him to ask that question because I said, is it possible to interpret this provision, and this is section 5D for those that may have a question or concern with what we're looking at. This is under the charter, meetings and quorum, section 5D. It says 3 members of the council, comma, including the mayor, comma, shall constitute a quorum. And I asked specifically in task, is that to be interpreted as 3 members of the council, including the mayor? That means the mayor must be one of those 3. Stephanie O'Hare, who is the representative at MTAS, she said no, it's because then you would be interpreting it to read 3 members of the council, comma, one of which shall be the mayor, and it doesn't say that. Now, I tend to agree with her. Some may think that means it must include the mayor, but when you've got the other provision on the next page, it talks about the majority of those being present. There's nothing else in the charter that requires that a mayor or vice mayor be present. And the fact that you've got Robert's rules to fall back on, which allows chairman pro tem. So, does that answer the question?
Yeah, I guess it's all about how you interpret it, and I trust your judgment. Just the way I read it there, it said may conduct business, however, but a smaller number may adjourn from time to time, and it goes on to say some other things there that, like I said, could be interpreted in different ways. But do you don't feel like there's any problem in breaking the rules of the charter in the event that Mayor Williams and Vice Mayor Elton are not here at the next meeting?
I don't think it's breaking the charter. Let me start with that. I don't, because the charter does not address the absence of it. It just says the mayor shall preside, and then the vice president the vice mayor shall assume the role of mayor in the event of an absentee. It's silent as to what occurs when both are absent. Again, some could interpret that to be that if the mayor is the only one that's allowed to assume the role of chairperson over presiding of a meeting, and when the mayor is absent, which is another provision of the charter, the vice chair takes over and assumes the role of mayor. And I asked him to ask that, and she said, I would not read it that way. It requires one or both of them to be present. And then and I looked at the Robert's rules, and that's what it talked about, chairman pro tem, which specifically addresses when the chair and the vice chair are absent, then those that are attending shall elect someone to preside over that respective meeting. Sure. That, yeah, I mean, that's, I did not get an indication from MTAS that it would be improper. I mean, my concern was that we conduct business and someone later challenged that as saying that was unauthorized by the council. MTAS gave me assurances they didn't think it was. And it's, the reference to the Robert's rules. But I cannot disagree. I can certainly appreciate the interpretation some might have where it says it only authorizes the mayor to preside or the vice mayor to assume the role of mayor in the absence of the mayor. Because I think it's called the Miller's Law. If your charter doesn't authorize it, doesn't otherwise authorize it, then you're otherwise prohibited from it. But you also have a code section that says, to the extent, talks specifically about the administration of council meetings, that to the extent not otherwise addressed by the charter or the code, all matters are to be conducted in accordance with Robert's rules. So in that essence, you sort of have authorized yourself to conduct a pro tem if you all chose to. That's sort of the conclusion reached within MTAS today.
And I'm confident that three of our members could conduct the meeting, but to your point about, and I didn't think about that, about the public hearing and a rezoning, that only two could possibly cast a decided vote on that. I apologize, I'm going to be here. It's actually a personal vacation instead of work. If I get out of it, I'm going to be in some big trouble. So, but it is what it is at this point. So it's the will of this council to proceed, and as the others of you would like to cancel the meeting. We won't be in violation of the charter if we did. But
I agree with Esther. I think maybe we should cancel the meeting.
You got that in the motion then?
I'll make a motion to cancel
A second.
April 25th council meeting.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Johnson, and a second by Councilmember Witt. Do we have any discussion? Yes, sir.
Rezoning,
Yes, sir.
how much notice do we have to give these people now? Do we have to do a mail out? Or just put that one yellow sign up there?
We'll actually redistribute, we'll actually reach out tomorrow. Typically, most rezonings that we've had, if we haven't had a full council, they've asked us to delay it. That's happened to us multiple times.
Do we have a bill out?
Yes, we'll mail, we'll take the exact same thing we do and mail it out again, and we'll let everybody know.
That's already taken notice.
15.
We didn't do the ad, you know.
Yeah, I'm running ahead.
So it's very possible that they could contact us and strike this, and it wouldn't be any. Well, there would be one item, which matters. Okay, well, we have a motion, then we have a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, Ms. Mosley.
Vice Mayor Hilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle.
Yes.
Councilmember Chauncey.
Yes.
Councilmember Witt.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. All right, that concludes all the business for this council meeting. I will say that I hope everyone has a very happy and safe Easter. And